Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me on this, my journey into the constraints-led approach for BJJ. My name is Sam Battlefield, and let's get into it. Today, we started off, as we have been in most of my sessions, with just boxing. Main reason being, it just warms us up, okay? Next game was double connection. One thing that I've noticed over the past few weeks, where I've been doing a more MMA sort of focus, is that we are a BJJ school. Yes, I do enjoy and have participated at some level in MMA and still maintain connections with various promotions and the like around Australia. I have always maintained that our school is grappling focused. There's a lot of reasons for that. We do not purport to be a fight gym. There is, in Australia particularly, I'm not sure around the rest of the world, but in Australia there is a certain expectation, a certain cliche, I suppose, that as a fight gym you have, this kind of young girl mentality where, it's about going hard and all that sort of thing. So we don't have that, and so I wanted to kind of remind us all that we're not necessarily an MMA gym, and really wanted to focus on getting that connection again when there wasn't the potential for strikes. So that's the main reason why I've been doing that double connection the last couple of days. Double connection, as it probably sounds, you can't just grab and that's it. You actually have to hold onto it for a meaningful period of time. So double connection could mean that I just grab your wrist, but obviously that's not easy unless you've got a solid grasp of the wrist. So that's the second one. That was the second game. Third game was butterfly guard, where we we weren't underneath. So it wasn't kind of, it wasn't, you could pull the trigger and go to a sweep. But what it was, your arms were around, but they were out, and you were sitting in just sort of normal thing with both the butterfly hooks in. Now, the game was for the person on the top to pin the person on the bottom, so the person who had the butterfly hooks in, pin their back to the floor. That meant either side control, mount, etc. The person on with the butterfly hooks had a similar goal in that they were to get the person's back on the floor, but it didn't matter how they got there. So there was no requirement that they had to use a butterfly sweep, and in fact I sort of made it specifically so that they were not in a position to execute a butterfly sweep. They had to gain a connection, deepen their connection. In case you can't tell, I just had to pause the video. I had a potential client. But anyway, so butterfly guard, I didn't want them to be getting their hips under straight away, so I wanted to sit out a bit. There was another reason for this, but essentially the affordances I was kind of looking to get were either they do get their hips under and they're able to execute some sort of a butterfly guard. Personally, I was able to find a couple of things, but I'll get to that in a second. The other thing I really wanted to look at is if they did get their hips under but they were flattened out, I was hoping that it would kind of lead into there be some overlap with the mount games that I was going to put into play. However, there was a range of different things that went on. People were regaining guard and then trying to put... So the wind condition was a little bit harder for the person underneath, from what I could tell. However, I was able to get a couple of butterfly sweeps that were the result of something a little different to what I'm accustomed to doing. So that was cool. But there was a little bit of confusion around it, and I can tell that some of it came from maybe not having enough constraints. I know that sounds weird, but these guys are, all of them that were there today, so there was a few there today, but all of them have between 1 to 3, so maybe even more, so 1.5 to 4 years of experience, so in that range. And so therefore and some of them, and they're just working with CLA at the moment, so they've still got a little bit of that old school IP going on in their brain. They're still asking questions that have, very specific techniques involved, techniques in mind, clearly, which is, it's fine, but it just means that it's a specific thing that they're looking for. So they'll be like, oh yeah, I could do a sweep, and it's like, but you don't have to. You don't have to do a butterfly sweep. You can. And they're like, oh, well, it got shut down straight away. And it's like, okay, so what are your other options? And I was trying to get them to sort of think, well, what are the other options when my goal is to put them on their back? You don't necessarily need to drag them on top of you in order to do like the two-footed butterfly sweep, and that's where I kind of I was able to angle off, but staying in tight, which was cool. Because again, I'm starting to realise this staying in tight thing is actually way more beneficial when you're on the offense. So when you're on defense, you're trying to make space. When you're on offense, it obviously makes sense. But then some good questions around the positional hierarchy came in. I'll address that soon in this video. But so stick around, like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. But the mount game, the control game that we did was high mount. So like we did yesterday, arms above, and the goal was to get your knees essentially in between you and your opponent. In between you and your opponent's hips, as a focus. I did stipulate that the single leg ashi is still available, and I probably shouldn't have, given that it muddied the waters, I think, a little bit for Ridwan, who was like, "Oh, what's single leg ashi?" And then I had to demonstrate it, and then I was like, that's, I shouldn't have done that. But that's something that I probably need to work on myself. Afterwards, everyone was, it was actually a really good one to work with, because it pointed out two major problems with, so having workshop with Ridwan yesterday, these other guys, they were so focused on my arms being around their head. I even said, mate, don't just disregard my upper torso at the moment. Stop trying to. And I was trying to bring his attention to it without explicitly saying, stop fucking with my arms, right? I was trying to bring attention to, you need to mess with my fucking hips, right? And during the rolls, it just wasn't sinking in. And then afterwards, chatting away in the insight sort of portion of things, and there was a lot of justification, and I kept on saying, yeah, but like, it's not helping you. And it was like, yeah, but I was just moving your hand away. And I was like, yes, but listen to what I'm saying. You are much better off. And here's where I probably muddied the waters again a little bit too much by including self-defense, by including gi, by including this. But the reality is that the principle I was trying to express, that the principle remains the same. You do not need to fuck with arms. And look, I have only recently, in comparison to my experience on the mats, I've only recently stopped doing this. Right? I was the guy that would be trying to grab arms and then would grab an arm and go, yeah, I've got something, and then do some massive move with my hips, and then they wouldn't move off my hips. And I was like, oh, why is that? It's because I'm not fucking framing off there. I'm not using. I'm not trying to affect them and make space, And this is an issue that, I've got to create a game around that, I reckon. Oh, fuck yeah. Okay, sorry. All right, next week is kind of, so this week was kind of under the umbrella of escapes. Next week is under the umbrella of attacks, all right? So I'm going to take attacks, and I'm going to show them why they need to do what I was telling them. However, in the rolls afterwards, I was having a roll with one of the guys, and he does a lot of frantic movements. Definitely, so sometimes gets past guard, but overcommits and allows me to get out. And that's it's kind of the thing that white belts do, right? But he was. I said, look, try and control that. Try and control the chaos. And he was like, oh, I just figure if I make some chaos, something will emerge from it. And it's like, yeah, okay, so destabilizing, great, awesome. I like that you're thinking like that. However, you need to be able to navigate that chaos once you create it. And he was like, yeah, but I just don't know what technique to use to get past your legs. And I was like, the penny dropped for me. He's still thinking in that technique hierarchy sort of thing. And it wasn't until I saw that video recently. And I used to talk about a technique hierarchy. I've actually got blogs on the fucking thing, and, where it's literally, you're face down, they've got their hooks in, they're on your back, you're face down, that's the worst place you could be, best place you could be is that guy on the back. Alright, cool, but just like a video that Greg had, say someone's in mount, and, they've got your arms up like this, alright? So, alright, are they on the offensive? Yes. Okay, what happens if they're in mount, but you've got a frame off them? Are they still on the offensive? Because at that point, you're very close to making space, which gives you the opportunity to be offensive yourself. So the idea of a positional hierarchy was kind of shaken up, and again, the waters are getting muddy. But the beauty of these of the waters being muddy is, as the mud settles, you realise you're still in this fast flowing river, and I am just winging that analogy, as you can probably tell. But anyway, the good thing that came out of this was, and the reason why I've got our friend Bernardo here, and our my next door neighbour from Melbourne, Mr. Lachlan Giles, just in a static pose here. I'm not going to press play on this video because it really doesn't matter, because we discussed the game being that we are looking to immobilize the center mass in order to access and isolate a limb in order to immobilize it and break it, or in the case of the neck, strangle it, right? And in order to get to the center mass, you need to immobilize and get past the limbs or the frames, right? So this is good. Like, don't worry about the technique that you're going to use. Look at what you can do to get past the frames in order to get to the center mass. And alternatively, once someone has control of your center mass, work to remove them from your center mass. This was a fairly productive discussion. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for joining me. See ya.